staying off. Let me speaker view full screen. All right, everybody, welcome to another Corona Geek here, where we talk all about app development for mobile, desktop, and connected TVs. I'm your host, Charles McKeever, and today we've got a full house. We've got Stephen Warren joining us with his delightful device tree there in the corner. We've got Michael Wilson with his OG brick background. Stephen Johnson from Zabalba Studios. Roaming Gamer, or Ed Marina from roaminggamer.com, Mike Hempling from cravecreative.com. We've got Scott Harrison from, I don't really know where Scott is from, but he's in the forums a lot these days and has published multiple plugins. So
he's from Tulsa. He lives right by me.
I was thinking more like the .com origination, but yeah, he's in Tulsa. And also Chris Byerly. So, hey, Chris, thanks for joining us. So we've got a good panel here today, and that's great because we want to talk about several things. Ooh, and there's Vlad. We also have Vlad. Look at that. All the tiles are filled out. I was going to say evenly, but they're not evenly. That's actually oddly. They're filled out oddly with the 9 of us here. Okay, so we have today a few topics. First, I want to say that Chris Harrison, man, I just smashed you two guys together right from Tulsa. Scott Harrison is going to be presenting some Firebase stuff today. Of course, he is multitasking, so right now he's occupied. He will become available later, and then he'll do his Firebase thing. So that'll be sort of just an impromptu injection someplace. But that's going to be interesting because I know I am interested in Firebase and its real-time data-ness. So anyway, we'll see how that works out. Also, I know Ed has some announcements for his EAT tool, Ed's Awesome tool. I think that's still the official name for it. And if we get to it, hopefully we'll get to it, or we may lead in with it. I'm not sure exactly yet. We will look at game ideas. So I've got a whole bunch of game ideas that I just kind of want to throw out, and we can talk about the general process of coming up with games and maybe refine a couple of the ideas that I present, and then just go from there. It's basically just a general discussion on game ideas and game development. And rather than ask everybody to kind of throw out their secret sauce and all the things that they're doing, I thought I'd just throw out my scrapbook and we can kind of nitpick on those ideas as we go. All right. Ed, I think you should start off with the announcement. Then
I should just lead in and get that done with, just in case Scott needs to come in.
Yeah, and then we'll see. And then we'll see how the Scott thing goes, and then we can kind of float with the game idea thing. So. Oh,
it says be right back, getting school ID. Okay.
Yeah. So he's basically in class, in college classes, and he's kind of working with what he's got there.
All right. I promise to be brief today. Can you guys see my screen?
Oh, we can. I can.
Okay, there. I get 5 minutes. If you give me 5 minutes. I said 5 minutes last time. It was 55 minutes. Okay, so everybody knows by now that I'm working on a tool for basically just making your life easier if you're new or if you've been around for a while. And by which I mean making it easier to get the plugin set up right, get your config file, your build settings, all that good stuff. So I've been working on this for quite some time. And it has been brought to my attention, but I wasn't really listening because I was so heads down. But I took some time and I reconsidered, and I thought, you know what, I'm approaching this a little bit wrong. And the way that I was approaching it wrongly was that I was offering basically one version of this tool. And it was expensive, and it might not be suitable for new people or folks who just want that sort of like easy lift to get started or to fix a problem with their project. And so what I've done is, and yes, I'm going to stick with EAT. I know there's been some talk about changing the title or whatever, but you know what? We've been using it now. It's funny. Some people know what it means, some people don't. But it goes with this idea that I came up with, which is basically to split the product down the middle and to offer a light version and sort of like the complete version. And so I'm calling these Eat Lean and appropriately Eat Fat. And Eat Fat is, we won't talk about that today other than to say that the release announcement on Eat Fat is coming up probably about 2 weeks, so it'll be just in time for next week's show or the week after's show. But Eat Lean for those of you who just want to be healthy, I see Charles's face there, is a slimmed down version of the tool. How am I doing? And it has just the fundamentals. The problems that it solves are configuring, setting up your config file, setting up build settings, and setting you up with a rudimentary either main Lua, or if you so choose, a very, very basic composer-based project that comes in one of two different flavors to sort of just get you rolling. And that's it. Actually, there's one more little detail. I'm on the fence on this one, so this could change. But up until today, I've been answering questions in the forums, and if you've gone to my GitHub site, then you'll see that I have a RG free stuff, and under there is an Ask Ed repository where I've been answering questions since, like, I don't know, 2013. And there's hundreds of different coded answers to people's questions. And while I'm going to continue to answer questions in the forums, I've decided that anything that requires a significant amount of coding will go directly into the Eat Lean, Eat Fat group or tool, so people will be able to get those answers and generate them through there. And the reason I want to do that is because some of these answers, while still valid, are now dated or they need corrections. And so instead of having me maintain them on the repository and go back and fix them, I'll just let them be fixed as part of this tool, because I maintain these fixes in the tool, so it'll fix the problems that come up with configuration or other details. So let's see, 3 minutes, 30 seconds. I think that's about it. Oh, price. So the early adopter price for what would have been considered Eat Fat, which is, we've been calling it Eat Frameworks up until this point, but Eat Fat will replace the Eat Frameworks name. That's currently at $50. But for people who want to get Eat Lean, the slimmed version, the current price will be $9.99, and then that'll be for a period of time, and then the final fixed price will be $14.99. So I'm going to do sort of an introductory phase to let people jump on board.
And how long is that intro phase? How long is that going to last, you know?
It'll last at least until September, and I'm thinking probably closer to mid-September, because I know that people have a lot of stuff going on in their lives right now. I mean, school, things are starting up, the summer is ending, so I don't want to put anybody on the spot. I don't want to let it last forever, but I want to make sure that as many people who are on the fence can get their hands on it easily. And so that sounds about right.
Yeah, I would suggest definitely give people time, get time to get the word out, people to become aware of it and make a decision, but also at that final push where you're ready to, like, okay, the doors are closing, and we need to definitely let people know, so that there's a sense of urgency, so that they'll, get off the fence as to whether or not they want to do it or not, because give them too much time, not enough urgency, too much time, people just won't do anything. Right.
It's not going to last forever, but I will close the door on that eventually, and I will give people a heads up. They'll get a heads up here and in the forums.
Okay.
So is that a one-time cost, Ed? Or
that'll be a one-time cost. Yes, that's correct.
like version 1 and then
go ahead.
Like for version 1, and then if you do like a major update, maybe it'll be another cost, or?
Yeah, I don't think there's ever going to be a major update to Eat Lean. So that's going to be a one-time cost. The only way there would be a major update to Eat Lean is if Corona decided to go to graphics 3.0. So we had the major change for graphics about a year or two ago. 2 years, maybe? I don't know. And that kind of change would have affected the tool. So. Oh, I forgot to say, the biggest selling point to me for this is that everybody has a lot of trouble setting up their plugins. Not everybody. A lot of people have trouble. I've had trouble in the past. It's really easy to forget, like, one setting or one detail. And so, of course, this tool handles all that. It sets up the plugins. Any plugins that require initialization, especially the ads and the analytics, it does that for you too. And the ads also provide you shortcuts, simple modules that let you do one-line calls, like show banner for a particular ad type, say show ad mob banner or show AppLovin add, etc. And so you don't have to do all that heavy lifting on your own. You can just call a single line of code. And currently, if I've got the count right, Corona has, where did I put that? I think Corona currently has 83 plugins. The tool itself supports 78 of those plugins completely, and 79 VK it partially supports. There's a little bit of extra coding to use the VK plugin that is not currently supported by the tool. And then I completely do not yet support Corona Viewer, the 2 Ouya plugins, and Facebook Graph, because Facebook Graph is the most complicated of the plugins to set up as far as getting all the right IDs in the right place and initializing and stuff. And so most people won't need Facebook Graph. That's kind of an advanced topic anyways, so I think this fits well with the current audience.
So tell us about the upgrade path. How does that work?
Okay, yeah, so there is going to be an upgrade path from Eat Lean to Eat Fat. So if people are on the fence, they're thinking, this sounds like a pretty cool idea, but Ed's talked about this other tool. We've seen peeks at it. We know it's coming. You don't need to wait. I think that this current tool will be useful to everybody. So go ahead and get it. And when I release Eat Fat, there will be a definite discount upgrade path from Eat Lean to Eat Fat. In other words, if you've got a license for Eat Lean, you'll get an offer from me in the mail with a coupon or a discount code that will let you upgrade to Eat Fat, and you'll get to recoup your cost for Eat Lean, and in all likelihood recoup beyond that some additional discount.
And it benefits for early adopters.
Yeah, it's sort of, I hesitate to call it early adopter, but I like to reward people for, clearly they're helping me if they buy the tool. So, and it tells me what kind of engagement I can look forward to, which really helps me set my sights.
Don't call it early access, or your tool will not be out.
Yeah, we're done with the early access naming.
It's like Amazon. Yeah. Amazon, you can pre-order the book.
Especially since somebody made that horrible joke last time about early access tools. By the way, I'm 5 minutes over here, so I'm done talking unless people have questions.
Any questions?
How's the weather?
How's the weather?
How's the weather?
It's not flooding in Texas anymore. So there's 78 plugins that it supports. That's amazing.
We have 78 plugins in Corona. That's amazing.
Actually, Corona's got 83 plugins.
So Scott Harrison asks, does the Drive plugin work? Is that one of them?
89. 84. Oh, man, I just went through the list last night. Google, is it listed officially on the pages?
That's a good question. The last time that I had heard about it, it was sort of, it was there, but you just had to know about it.
Yeah, I totally forgot. I saw that in the Slack channel. So the answer to that question is, one, if I missed something, by all means, people should let me know. But I'm keeping an eye on this. So there are going to be continuous releases as new plugins get supported by Corona. They will come out and be supported by the tool. So when it hits 90, there's going to be 90 in the tool. 100 in the tool.
So I have an important question, and
yes.
that is where do people get this tool?
Where do people get this tool? Okay, so I'm making an announcement here on the show. I get the rest of today to finish up the docs on my website, and then people can go to my website to get the purchase link. I'm going to be selling it in a number of different places because I found that having more than one marketplace for buying things gives me a better penetration. For some reason, people prefer one over the other, and so I'm not going to restrict them. So I'm thinking it's going to be Gumroad, Selfie, and I'm thinking itch.io's tool marketplace, maybe.
Okay. And so when they go to romangamer.com, there's going to be a big banner there or something?
Yeah, so as per Mike's suggestion, I'm changing around Roman Gamer, the site. So the front page is going to be all about making games and whatnot. It's still currently my blog, but it'll be the landing page for people who want to make games and need stuff from me, basically.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, we'll definitely link to it in the show notes.
All right.
Sweet. All right. So you're still showing your desktop, by the way.
I can do that. I'm finito.
All right. Hey, Noah. Noah from Chunky Apps is here. And Lurg. Hey, Lurg.
How you doing, guys? That was neat.
All right. So our next topic until Scott jumps in is game ideas. So let me just share my screen here. You guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
So this is basically drawn on an iPad. Well, actually, some of this was it was drawn on an iPad, but it's some of it was pre Apple Pencil days. So some of it's like really big funky font or big fat lines and stuff.
Big fat finger font.
Yeah, big fat finger font. That's the font. You know it. You're familiar with it. Okay. So anyway, so the idea that I thought we'd have here was just a kind of an open discussion about how we come up with ideas, and I've got these things to share as a primer for the conversation, but I really want to hear from you guys. How do you come up with ideas? How do you kind of capture those and then come back to them later, and how do you flesh them out as you go? So obviously here I've captured some stuff in on the iPad. Some of these things have been like just random thoughts, and some of them have been like I was just about to go to sleep and then I had this idea and I scribbled it down and then I went to bed. So let's start off by talking about. We don't have to really talk about the app format. We can come back to that in a moment. Let's start off by talking about this zombie math game. So this is something I just scribbled down. It was kind of along the idea of having solving math problems, but having it kind of be a little more fun than just doing straight up math. Because one of the things that I see is there's common concepts that are easy to latch onto, like, hey, let's do math problems, or let's do spelling, or let's do picture matching. But how do you do that in a unique way that hasn't already been done a million times and make it something different? So here I was thinking, okay, well, you get a kind of a fat zombie, or like a zombie, maybe even a kid, and then over time that kid turns into a zombie. But then you have a certain, like, the on one side of the equation you have the number, and then on the other side you have like the number of brains, and then you have to tap out the number of brains, or maybe even make the brains, like make the zombie eat the brains, like see those arrows are dragging down there, so drag the brains to the zombie. And if you don't drag them fast enough to before the timer runs out, then you become like an emaciated zombie, I guess, or a starving zombie. So anyway, what do you guys think of this idea? I mean, like, could it be improved? How do you, or better yet, how do you guys capture your ideas when you have something like this?
I'm gonna hang off for a minute. I got a jet going by.
Oh, okay.
I have a deck of lists with all the game ideas that I've come up with, and I keep it in a box that says I'm a genius. And that's how I keep up all my game ideas. Sometimes I go through them and I throw away ideas that are no longer appealing to me. And sometimes I sort them with good ideas coming on top of the stack and bad ideas coming on the bottom of the stack. But yeah, it's generally just sometimes it hits me with an idea and just I write it down on a piece of paper. It has millimeter precision, if you can read, and I can draw something quickly on it with my pen and stick it into the pile. Sometimes I look at some existing game, like a new game, and it hits me like, oh, I like this new concept, and this new concept of theirs can be used in another way, and that could be another totally different game. So always steal ideas, always rework them, and this is how new stuff is made in the world. What else?
I was thinking for this game as I was going there, I was thinking, if you have if you don't feed him enough brains, of course he sort of shrivels up and dies. But if you feed him like too many brains, like you let's say that the answer there was 5, and you fed him like 10 brains, then he could explode.
Exploding zombies. That's what we need.
I think the only problem is maybe the kids would like it so much they just feed them too much every time.
Well, I think is that okay? Is that okay? I mean, is that
That would be a bad thing, right? That's true.
Yeah. There's a book. I don't know if you guys have seen the book. Like something like I can't remember the exact name of it. It's like The Art of Game Design. So it's one of those books that's it's recommended a lot when you research online for like game design books, and they spend a lot of time in there talking about philosophical concepts.
Steve has it right there. It looks like.
There you go. There's the card set. And
Where is it?
there's the book.
Yeah, that's the book. That's it, right? The Art of Game Design.
And there's the card set.
Now you have
I
both.
highly recommend it to anybody.
Do you recommend the cards or the book or both?
The cards are interesting. They have a couple of methods to use them. One of them is that you randomly grab a card a day, and then you look at it and you compare it. You use one of your apps and compare it against and see if the card applies. And if it doesn't apply, how could you apply it? Things like that. I haven't really done that as much. The nice part about the book is it's an end-to-end conversation about all the different roles, and most of us are probably indies, so we wear every one of the hats. And there's a few of those hats that we may not be as good at as we are with others. So the idea is it kind of gets you a little bit out of your comfort zone and get you to start thinking about developing an app as a holistic process versus it being, coding, designing, marketing. So kind of interesting. So.
Okay. Yeah, I know that. Like I said, that the chapters are kind of. I don't want to say that. I don't want to make it sound negative, but they're kind of long-winded. But you're trying to describe a creative process without pigeonholing it into like you got to do this, and this, right? I mean, it's a very fluid, conceptual type thing. And while games, at least the games that are popular today, seem to have common elements to them, which is kind of why I started over here. I had like this app format slide. There's still no. I don't know. I don't really think there's any clearly defined formula for creating something that's fun. It's got to feel fun, and it seems like that's what the book tries to address. Is like how do you make something enjoyable and make it. I don't know. It's kind of a squishy sort of topic, but I think I like the idea of the cards, being able to pull those out and skip through like in more snack size ways.
Charles, go back a screen or two.
Yeah, which one? Zombie?
No. Keep going.
Keep going. There.
See, this isn't. I don't consider this much of a getting started to building a game, because this is stuff that every game pretty much has to have.
Yeah.
You're going to have a splash screen, a menu, a level select, credits, so on. You're just kind of building the structure for the game there, but the idea for the game doesn't come from this. This is the framework for building a game.
Yeah, exactly. And part of
your zombie brains is the idea for creating a game. Okay. You've come up with an idea. You can see how it plays. You've got an animation, an idea of the style of art or what can happen during that play. And that's a foundation that you can then take back to your framework and start producing something. Now, like for me, being an old fart, sorry, you have to bleep me there. Being the old guy here, coming up with new ideas gets harder as you get older. And for me, I mean, I've got a great title for a game. I just don't know what to do with it, and I'm having trouble finding artwork for it, which is, why I'm trying to become a better artist. But sometimes, I mean, the game I'm currently building, I just went to a game art site, found some game art I liked, and I'm building the game based on the assets I have to work with.
Yeah, I've done that a number of times. Because you can get pretty good priced stuff to help you really get inspired,
Yeah, I mean, I think I've maybe spent $40 or $50 on the art for this, and I've got, the UI. It's basically a side-scrolling alien shooter.
Cool.
I've got a wide variety of ships and effects and stuff out of it that I didn't spend more than $50 on. So.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is you got to make a little bit. In my opinion, I think that if you're serious about it, you need to make a little bit of investment. If you unless you have either A, the capability, or B, someone who can make some high class artwork.
I think that's probably you touched on that. It's a question of return on investment and your capability. If you're not an artist, then trying to become an artist in the span of the time that you want to make your game is probably not the best investment.
Right. I mean, of course, there's always the other side of the spectrum where people say, do build a game at your level and then, focus on gameplay. The art shouldn't matter. And there's something to that too. There's something to that too. But I think in the sales department, I don't think that quite equates to the same thing sometimes.
Well,
are we talking now to people who are we in, okay, who is our audience right now? People who want to make games to make money, or people who just want to make games to make a game?
It takes money to make money.
It takes
Okay,
games
but who's our audience?
to make
Doesn't
games.
answer my question.
Yeah.
Who are we talking to?
I would think anybody who wants to make a game, regardless of the goals.
Yeah, I think both the groups, any of them. So if you have time to do the work yourself, you do it yourself. But if you have a full-time job, and you can easily save some out of your salary to hire somebody from another country for with a cheap rate to make all the graphics for you.
But to Chris's point, if you take a look at Pop the Lock, there's an incredibly well done game with incredibly minimalistic, probably programmer created art.
Yes, and going minimalistic is a total advantage that you should start with. So
You can find a niche in any remaining space in the minimalistic.
If you are thinking of a game, have an idea, and you're all imagining like West environments, like spaceships, planets, lots of characters, lots of items, it's better probably to skip the city, because that kind of resources is very hard to pull off unless you are an established game developer studio. It's much more easier to start with something small with a few assets, with a few images, not so many.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, either that or something that can do like dynamic generation. Just so,
Right.
So you don't have to do get all the assets.
Well,
It's,
you guys-
it's about the phrase that you gave, game. It takes games to make games. So it's totally true, because you start with small games and then you gradually progress with more complex games, because you gain experience and you gain income from the previous games to pay for your later games. So yes, it is games for games.
But I think to Ed's point, if you are looking to make money, if you do not have good art, it will definitely hamper you as far as putting a game on a store. I mean that's obviously the first thing that people see.
Yeah.
And if the art is not up to snuff, there's a lot of competition out there. So if you're really serious about it, I think you definitely need to invest.
Yeah.
And it's funny. When you talk about simple art, sometimes that's hard to make. It doesn't look hard to make until you actually do it. Like an Illustrator user, sometimes that just to get it looking right, you'd be surprised. So.
Yeah,
Oh,
anytime a client uses simple in a conversation, the price goes up.
That's my least favorite word to hear from a client.
Yep.
Simple.
I just want a simple interface. I just want it to be simple. Okay. Okay. Well, so did you guys saw Tony Godfrey's Hoppy Knot? I mean, that was all stock assets from Kinney.nl, and he put in rewarded gameplay, and he put in various different levels, and it got increasingly hard as you went along. And he had had parallax in it. I mean, there's a lot of advanced features in this game, even though it was all kind of stock art. And so Scott's asking, how well did that game do? I don't know. We'd have to get Tony back on and ask him for an update. That's a good question. I mean, I don't know, but at this point though, I'm really just trying to focus on how do you capture your idea, because you can go source stock assets and maybe even ask somebody, hire somebody to do the programming, but you've got to kind of come up with a design. Or come up with the ideas. It's almost, I think your question earlier was like, who's our audience? I think we're talking to anybody who wants to design the game, right? Not even necessarily to program it or do the art for it, but just wants to design something that they think is fun.
Yeah, I think often too, I mean, I know for me, I was just making games just kind of for fun, and then you kind of fall into the making money part. So, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of people who start off, with the making money part, but, sometimes you don't start there. And then all of a sudden you're in business, and you're like, oh my God, I'm in a business now.
Yeah, that is another question. And let's go back to that. Let's go back to that screen here for a second. I mean, zombie math game, is that going to be a moneymaker? I don't know. I mean, there would have to be some viral component to it, I think, that would make it.
We also need to clarify that money making does not come solely from the game itself. It's more from luck, being featured, or marketing to get your game out. So if this is very simple concept, but if with nice graphics and with nice marketing, it sure will pay off, because everything that is marketed will be selling at some point. It's just how much do you spend on marketing. Yeah. So I think here we should really be focusing on creating ideas, working on with ideas, and coming up with them, right?
I haven't answered yet. I had a jet going by earlier. So you asked earlier, how do we come up with ideas and that general thing? My general answer is one, I never go anywhere without a notebook. Sort of what Sergey was saying. I have ideas. I get ideas all the time. So I keep a notebook with me and I write them down. That helps me both get the idea out of my head and make sure I have it someplace where I can look it up. And two, I've taken to doing this more and more lately, but what I like to do is I will choose a very specific topic or mechanic, and I will create a test bench, and I'll try it out. And then I'll make a copy of that, and I'll tweak it. And I'll keep doing that until I have like 10 different copies of a rudimentary game, a basic game that has different flavors, different mechanical tweaks. And I as quickly as possible, explore the same mechanic or set of mechanics over and over until I can find something that resonates with me. And then I'll start to expand on that. That's my current approach to doing things. I try not to integrate artwork too early, because I find for me that if I start putting any kind of artwork at all in, it starts to drive the development of the game. And I think in some cases you need the artwork to drive the development and the theme and the concepts of the game. But for me, if I start too early with art, I almost get into this position where I'm restricted. Like, now I have to do something that involves that art or is related to this style of art or something like that. I don't know if you know what
I guess it depends how you're developing or what you're working towards. I mean, for me, it's exactly the opposite. It's like the art is, I mean, that's kind of like the first thing I'll choose is the theme and the art, because that will help drive and help find some magic usually that I wouldn't find going the other way. So it's just interesting. I think game development, I've just noticed more and more, is just similar to just so many other art forms. I mean, it's the same process. It's a creative process, and
everybody has their own.
And everybody has their own, and everybody will have different outcomes, and everybody will have different approaches, and I think that game development is pretty much exactly the same. I mean, I've seen so many similarities, to like the music business and the movie business. It's another creative business, that we're in, and it's going to be just like other creative businesses. It's that there's going to be a handful at the top, and there's going to be a lot of people in the middle, and then there's going to be a bunch of people at the bottom. It's just where you end up, and a lot of it's going to be luck.
So don't be at the bottom.
So don't be at the bottom if you can help yourself. Yeah.
I think we can look at people and say, hey, here are reproducible things that I can do in order to make sure that my success has a better chance. But I like the idea that there's not a right or wrong way to do it. Like what Chris was saying. I mean, if everybody kind of does it differently, then there's not a particular way that you have to do it. But at the same time, there are clearly ways to do it wrong. Right? Like, I mean, and I don't mean just maybe
that's a good point.
I don't mean maybe just the development and stuff, but I mean the marketing and the whole thing. If we're talking about the whole conversation, right, then there's definitely things that you could do. Like, you could launch on a day when people aren't paying attention, and then never talk about the game, and those types of things. I mean, you could clearly do things wrong, or at least not as advantageous to you as possible.
I usually start off with the art phase. Like, first of all, before that, I usually start just keeping a text document that I just want to get ideas or thoughts about whatever. And the way I come up with those is either something just hits me, or I'll peruse the app store and look to see what's been selling good or new apps that have came out. And if that generates any ideas or things that I think I could do. One of the things I always do is always look at it not based on what's possible by anybody, but what's possible by me, because I'm a one-man shop for the most part. So it comes down to, so then I just keep jotting down ideas, and then I try to come at that in different ways. Like I said, I'll go through the app store. Maybe I'm watching TV and I come up with an idea, or I'm at a store or whatnot, or I just try to, blue sky some stuff. And then when I get to the part where I'm going to actually try to say I'm going to try to come up with an idea and start something, then I come up with a couple that I think I'm interested in that I could do. And then I decide whether I would probably do the artwork myself, or whether I'm going to try to use stock. And then I research some stock stuff. And if I can get it cheap enough in stock, cheaper than it would take for me to do it, then I buy it there and change it and try to make it my own to some degree, and just kind of continue to move down the path. And to Ed's point is, I think people, and this makes sense, you lean on where your strength is. So his strength is, programming. He's really great at it, and he's fast at it, where that's my slow point, where the coming up with the ideas and the artwork and the interfaces and trying to flesh that out first makes sense for me. Also, from a background standpoint, I come from the agency design world, so you always start off with an idea, the idea of a brand, a concept, and you move forward from there, and you design it, and you don't start producing anything until you have all these other things in place. So that's always been I've kind of somewhat kept that methodology. Plus, I've wanted to do, can maybe sometimes jump into the programming part of it, but anytime I do that, I always feel like I really get slowed down in the process of vetting whether that's going to work out for me as a good game idea, because it takes me too long to do that sometimes.
I'm sorry. I was listening to an interview with the designer. What was it? Super Mario Brothers. I can't remember his name, but he's been with Nintendo for forever and a day.
Miyamoto.
Yeah, Miyamoto. And he was talking about this. They asked him, how he kind of came up with Super Mario Brothers and that whole genre of games. And he says, he was on a train, and he was looking out at the train, and he said there was like mountains and trees and all this other stuff. And he said, I just started daydreaming and thought, what would it be like if someone could jump from mountain to mountain and from tree to tree and that sort of thing. And so he came up with this idea of this character that would, jump on the terrain and the platforms and stuff. And that was kind of his idea for that. And then he told another story about a different game that he designed, but it was all kind of like, he was just seeing objects and just imagining them differently than what they actually are or actually were. So it's interesting, Mike, as you say that. I mean, Ed's thinking of it from a programming standpoint. You're thinking of it from a design program standpoint.
I come from a design standpoint, and I kind of see both. I'll start out most likely thinking of the art, but before I take it too far, I get right in and program quickly a mechanic. Make sure the mechanic is fun, because if it's not fun, sense. You got to give it up. So if you spend too much time with the art before you even get in there, you might have done a lot of extra work.
For me, it's more important to think about what the game actually feels like, not how it looks like, not how it's like, but how it's... What I'm saying,
right. Get the feel of it. Get the feel of the mechanics.
The feeling is the most important. It's a combination. It can be a combination of the graphics and the programming, but really you are imagining in your head how do you play it with your hands and how do you feel.
I think it also takes as much art as it needs. Maybe part of that game or part of that mechanic does rely on art. So, maybe
that's a good point.
Right.
Not to overdo it if you don't need to.
Yes, I kind of just bounce back and forth until once the mechanic is in, and then then it's time to get all the art done. Then you start realizing all the buttons you need and all the UI
and why do you still do this?
And how long it's going to take me, and how the week turned into a month.
What do you guys think about? I mean, of course, we've talked about reskinning before, but what do you think about taking an idea and adding a new spin to it? Right, kind of imagining it in a different way. I mean, is that the same thing as? I mean, is that still a creative process?
Of course it is. It's the only process.
I mean, I've got this Ocean Deep game here, which is basically a don't touch the spikes, right? So the walls of the seafloor, the underground, whatever here, the cavern, change, which is almost like a vertical version of Alone by Laserdog, right? They've got the caverns with the stalactites and the stalagmites, right? And
I saw your picture, Charles. I instantly remembered Ridiculous Fishing. Have you played it?
Yeah.
Ridiculous Fishing. You're right.
Ridiculous Fishing. I'll have to look this up.
Because it looks exactly, because you drew an arrow downside, but in the Ridiculous Fiction, the arrow is a hook that you collect the fish when you go up.
And are you trying not to touch the sides? Is that it?
Yeah, you can touch the side, but you don't touch the fish. And once you reach the bottom, or if you touch accidentally some fish, on the way up, you collect as many fish as you can, and then it throws into the air, and you pick up your gun and you shoot all the fish.
Ridiculous fisherman.
That sounds like it. Yeah, interesting.
I think of Mole Escape. Has anyone ever tried that one? That's similar.
Mole Escape.
Mole Escape. Yeah.
No.
This is what I've said before. There's only a handful of mechanics.
Exactly.
But that doesn't invalidate the idea. It's the expression of the mechanic that sells it.
There was research about cinematography, about books, that there are only like a number of stories that you can describe in these books. And all the books, all the movies have the same basically story, the same plot, and they just change the details.
Yeah, I've heard that too about writing. Yeah.
There's a, well, I mean, Star Wars is just a collection of, I mean, if you've ever seen the interview, Star Wars is really just a collection of classic elements, right? Boy meets girl. There's a good guy, there's a bad guy. That kind of thing. I mean, it's just.
I've also heard like every superhero is some form of Robin Hood, if you really think about it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But the thing is to see things. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and yeah, there's only, I mean, especially when it comes to mobile, right? Yeah, there's tap, there's swipe, there's press and hold. There's like technically there's so many things, only so many things you can do. But then there's the storytelling end of it. For example, like let's see here, let me find this one. As I'm sitting here looking out the window that's in front of me, there's a parking lot. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, couldn't you could make a parking puzzle game, right? Where your goal is to go into the parking garage and get out of the parking garage without slamming into the other cars, right? So now you put your finger down, you drag your finger around, you move your vehicle around without running into any of the other cars. And so the parking map could change every time. But then you just have to navigate each one separately.
You know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing the parking lot variant of air control.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking, Ed.
Yeah.
Every game you do that. It's true.
Yeah. It's a good point. Yeah. Because I have played Air Control, and I love that game.
For me, what you draw is a game when you try to squeeze out some rectangles out of confined space. You draw a bubble around them and you pull the string with the bubble and try to pull them out.
So Scott says he's going to be back at 3:20. We're going to be gone by then.
We'll be done by then.
So we may have to do Scott's things next time, or we'll work something out.
But he shared a link, and I'm looking at it now.
Well, yeah,
the Firebase stuff.
Which he says, please don't share.
Which he puts it to the public forum.
Please don't share.
Okay, I'm not looking at that anymore. Sorry.
Yeah. So here, and because I like the other day I was coming across this thing, enemy, my enemy, right? I heard this thing that the enemy of my enemy becomes my friend. And then I was like, well, how do you express that? Because it's really what we're talking about is coming up with an idea and then trying to figure out how to express it. How do you express that in a game? And could you? The enemy of my enemy becomes my friend. And then I was like, well, you've got 3 blocks, and you get your enemy and you got your friend. And then I was like, how do you do that? Right. And I don't know if it's even worth doing, but it still kind of goes to that kind of like, it's almost like a challenge. Like, how do you have an idea like that and then figure out how to express it in a game?
Yeah. So take different settings and see if you can make it into some sort of a game, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's a super thin idea, right? I mean, it's not even a game. It's just more like a note. Like
you can see it. You can see it as some type of a puzzle game. But you're right.
It sounds like there's some conflict that could arise if it happens twice. If the enemy of your enemy becomes your friend, and then the enemy of their enemy becomes their friend, and then
I think that's what would make it interesting if you could somehow capture that.
Compounding conflict.
You're flipping too fast, man. You keep flipping. You give me like these little sneak peeks.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's probably a delay on the other end. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'll stay there while we're talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't that far off of what game jams do. So Ludum Dare usually always has some sort of big open box, enemy of my enemy would be like a perfect theme for them. And then you go to see how, 3,000 different people execute on that one idea. I think having an open-ended idea is actually better than, a different version or a tap version of this game or that game. Having these more theoretical things, I think, tends to play a little bit better.
So you're saying this isn't really a game idea. This is a game jam theme.
Yeah, I mean that's what I would.
That's how it struck me. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I got a good bunch of game jam themes then. I have a whole notebook full of game jam themes.
Okay, don't move screens.
Okay, so this is a circular whack-a-mole. Basically, I don't know. This kind of, I don't know where this came from, but it was probably inspired by the Taps games guys. Taps, they have a whole bunch of games that are like just clickers, right? Just tap games. And so here I was thinking, okay, but wouldn't it be kind of cool just to do like grow a plant or maybe raise a child? And you'd start with the baby, and then you'd grow it up to an adult, and then at some point you'd have a headstone. It's like these really kooky sort of like, I don't know why. I don't know why you do that, but why not, right?
If you got the time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You got the time. And then I had this one here, this number match. So I wrote these down, and I'm just sort of bearing myself here. I wrote this down. I don't remember what it means. So I would say,
that's what notebooks are for, man. I do it all the time. I write something down. I'm like, what were you drinking, dude? What was that?
I would say,
it looks like you have to drag the number to the word in a certain amount of time. That's my guess.
Yeah. Okay. So then maybe that's
I'm
the missing
totally
element.
on this one.
Yeah. Maybe that was the missing element. Yeah. I think it is number matching, right? Number match. So yeah, you're right. Word. It was supposed to be geared towards kids, but it was supposed to be getting them to match the numbers to the words so that they would recognize. I mean, and that may be totally off because I don't know.
I'm sure I've had ideas in the past where I looked at somebody's idea or one of my own and misunderstood it.
Yeah, right.
That's also food for thought.
Yeah.
I think it's worth writing down a very clear explanation of what you thought at the time. I guess that's the point of showing this is that, okay, maybe
I'm saying you could come up with another idea by misunderstanding.
You're saying leave it vague. That way you could be like, oh yeah, that was what I meant.
Maybe I'll have a better idea later.
There you go. It's a game when you launch it, it just goes right in the play screen with no instructions. And how do you play this game? I don't know. Figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out. Yeah.
That's the name of the game. Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Writing that down. Figure it out.
Well, I meant more from the development front than the play.
Yeah, it could give you a whole different new inspiration by misinterpreting it.
Yeah. So here's one, Memory Flags. It's a memorization game, but also a game where it's educational because you tap on the flag and it gives you information about the country, which hopefully would be good from a marketing standpoint with teachers.
Thinking on the bottom how to make money.
IAP.
Money.
Oh my God, that's good. You gonna sell some flags?
Yeah,
hey, man. Why even work on an idea if you don't have the idea of like, how do I monetize this? Unless you're there just to make games for fun. By all means, make games for fun. But if you're there to make money, don't even work on the idea if there's no way to monetize it.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I think you do have to understand what your goal is, because if you try to create something and then back end it into a monetization plan, it's not necessary.
I don't know if you guys
so true. Yeah.
do that, but anymore now, I mean, I won't work on an idea if I don't have a way to monetize it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Covey concept, begin with the end in mind. What is your purpose? If your purpose is to make money, then that should be thought of up front. So
Yeah.
Now, I don't want it to drive like the flavor of the thing or anything, but if there's absolutely no way to monetize an idea, it may be fun, but I can't do it right now.
Yeah, I think that goes back to our people don't like to talk about politics. They don't like to talk about money. They don't like to talk about sex, right? There's certain things in polite society people just don't like to talk about. But money,
Must be not polite then.
money is not a four-letter word, and it certainly drives. Anytime we talk about anything, we talk about economic engines. We talk about how something's sustainable. I think people have to come to terms with what their feelings about money. because once you kind of understand it as a tool, then you're like, okay, well, yeah, this my purpose is to make money, but my purpose, the interactions of the game, the style of the game, the enjoyment of the game doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, that's not the money is not the only thing that rules the game, right? If you want the game to be truly successful, then the game should be as much fun as possible,
Right.
in balance with making money. Because otherwise, nobody will want to play it, and you won't make any money. So
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Is you shouldn't be thinking about money once you start making the game, but don't make the game without having thought about it first.
yeah.
Exactly.
There's no way to make money, don't do it. But once you have a way, focus on the game. Make it fun. Make it the game that you want it to be,
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not being true to yourself, and it's pointless. So.
There's a
One
really
thing we
good.
have as indies, one thing we have is the only thing that doesn't scale is ourselves. So our time is precious, so we have to make sure we target that time. So.
Yeah.
If anybody
Yeah.
figures out how to do that, I want to know. Scale themselves, totally. Me, myself, and I is the joke, but the other two, they're never working.
There's a really good Casual Connect video on the developers of Crossy Road, and they talk about how they went into it. Of course, wanting it to be a profitable game, but they also they were very opinionated about how that was going to take place, and so they didn't want to ruin the user experience. At the same time that they try to make money. So anyway, if you watch that, I won't go through it all, but if you watch what they talked about, I mean, they balance it out really well. And I think that's evidenced by the popularity of the game.
I'd say they balanced it out real well.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen that. Whether it was a video or a blog, I either read it or saw it. And you're
Yeah.
right. It's definitely worth finding. I think they pretty much started the whole video ad craze, and the way they did it was perfect.
Does anybody notice that Disney seems to buy into all of the top games now?
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. I don't even think they make anything themselves. They just slap the characters on there. I wonder how much those people are getting paid for those to do that branding.
Probably a lot.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
That's a whole job right there. I mean, that's a real serious job, is doing branded remakes of common mechanics.
But
Yeah.
they seem to be they work with the original developer. So
Yeah,
Crossy
it's like
Road
the exact
has a
game.
Disney version made by the same developers of Crossy Road.
Yeah, and it's a Disney one.
Didn't
And
they
they
make,
did it too with they did a Star Wars one with that I think a year or so, or maybe 2 years ago now, with it was like when they were at that hotel building craze or whatever, the building craze thing, and they had some real popular one, and then they did a Star Wars one, and
it was the Death Star.
yeah, with the Death Star thing. So I was
It's
just
a great idea. You can put tack your characters onto what's already a popular game.
yeah, and they did that with the Gator one too. They changed it to the Perry thing.
Didn't they already make Where's My Water? Didn't they make that?
Yeah, they had made that ahead of time, and then they slapped another skin on that. It's just interesting. Yeah, they got the money to do it.
Oh, somebody brought up the word scan, which is rescan. So are we going to talk about that?
I can share a few of my ideas. One idea that I had, I always like real-time strategies, and one idea was to exclude resources and replace them with money. And money you earn with showing off your war. So the more people are watching your stream, or you kill other people or aliens, the more they donate to you, and the more stuff you buy on it. So, and this idea, but it's too complex. Of course, for mobile application, maybe for desktop it's okay, but not for mobiles, and it's too hard work. Another game idea was to make Corona's Decay story, where you download Corona's Decay and make a game in a game.
Make a game in a game.
So like game dev story.
Gameception.
Yeah, sometimes I get an idea that's literally just a few words, like Zelda in space. That's all you need to know. That's a good idea. One of recent ideas is exploit game mechanics in reverse. So you have upgrades for general characters usually, but what if you just make the game mechanics about degrading? So you have something, some entity like robot or some character with lots of features that is very cool, but once the game progresses, you have to throw away some parts, and you only leaving only necessary parts for your game style or your gameplay. For example, if you I don't know, maybe you have a spaceship and you don't have all the power, all the resources, you throw away some modules, some stuff away, and you just the bare minimum trying to win the game. So this is one concept that is I haven't seen in games, but could be promising.
You seem, yeah, you always have to have some sort of friction, right? I mean, if it's just like there's like a timer, like even those matching games, the zombie matching game or the whatever, those things that I showed early on, just matching it is kind of like, okay, well, maybe I can get it. But if you put a timer on it, well, now there's like, oh, well, I got to do it before the timer. And there's like this sort of a extra element to it. So yeah, you definitely got to, you have to throw out, you have to have something that's like a conflict so that you can then figure out how to get around that, which gives you then the concept of resource management. And there's definitely personality types. I mean, some people like to do, like I play Clash of Clans simply because I liked organizing my my village or my, whatever you call it, the
Village.
Yeah, the village. I liked organizing that, right? I like to doing the elixir collectors and and getting the gold and doing all those things. But when it came to battling, I could care less, right? So I think people are going to have different things that attract them to the game.
Most of the time, games are problem solvers. So you present a game with a problem, and the player solves it and enjoys it. But sometimes it's just really observations. It's just simulation of growth, like city simulators and stuff.
It's the God complex. So you want to, you want to be the controller.
Is that control freak or God complex? I'm not sure which one of those.
A little bit of both, maybe.
a little bit of both. Scott, I see you're on your iPhone there. Are you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I don't think we're going to have time to do the thing.
Yeah, probably not. It's
So-
fine. I can just do it. I can just. When's the after dark?
I don't know what the calendar is, but we're coming up to the end of the month. It's probably next week, I think, maybe. I don't know.
I'll probably just do that. And by the way, just to clarify, the alpha link I put in, it's for everyone who wants to use it. Like anyone who wants to use it. I think I said to Steve, I said I would push out something. I just for people to experiment. And if you guys see a bug, just let me know.
Okay. Yeah, I think we can all do that.
Charles,
Yeah.
if After Dark is the first Wednesday of the month, then you're 2 weeks away.
We're 2 weeks away.
This is the 24th, and next week's the 31st. So I guess it's almost 3 weeks, really.
Scott, I'm sorry. Scott, do you always have? Is it always Monday? You're going to have this class?
Yeah, usually
Okay.
so. Yeah.
So the After Dark would probably be the best.
Yeah, that's probably the best option. I don't know. Maybe I'll do like a YouTube video of my own or something, showing it off. I don't know. I'll
Yeah.
see.
Or put him on first.
What?
Well, he has class, so he's in class.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm actually I'm kind of pretending like I'm making a phone call on my car.
Right.
But
Right.
were you in class when you were on earlier, or are you heading to class?
Oh, I'm done with class.
Okay.
But earlier he was in class, yeah.
So yeah,
So,
I'm taking mobile application development. So yeah.
Nice.
Well, cool. Well, yeah. If you want to create a video, kind of tease it out. I mean, we can always share it around the group, and then hopefully we'll have something to look at on the next After Dark. Yeah, I would suggest we could do another event like this on next Monday, but then of course you would be in class again, so that wouldn't work. All right, well, we'll work that out. But it sounds like everybody's got different ideas about coming up with the game ideas, different ideas of how to keep the notes. Steve and I'll definitely link the book in the show notes and the cards. And yeah, so I appreciate you guys sort of sharing your thoughts on all that because, like I said, mine's just a scratch pad of random thoughts that aren't really fleshed out. But I think it's fun to keep those. You never know where something's going to lead. All right, thank you everyone for joining us, for being here. We're going to peace out, and until next time, have a great time and happy coding.
Cheers.
Cool.